One of the more complex parts of an estate planning document is the executor, guardian, trustee sections, and be able to handle situations where you can have your initial, for this example, we're going to use executor, but it applies to everything. Initial executor and then successor executors, and then and then also if you want to include, if you want to use co-executors. So in this video, I'm going to go through and help you in setting up the design, what needs to happen as far as your models and everything, and then also what would a document look like. And below the video, you'll see the text of what the document could actually be, so you can implement that in your document. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go to the designer. Many of our users have started out with what we call our estate planning base, so you have a lot of this information already in there. If you don't, you'll just want to follow these screens and set it up the same as what I've done. The first step is I've got a client will and a spouse will. In this case, I'm just going to click on will because I want to go into the will property. This is the way we've designed this is this where you can ask your questions about a will. You will also see the same for a trust, but this is where we'd ask your guardian questions, your executor questions. I'm just going to go ahead and move that up just for the sake of viewing. So in our setup, what we have found is the easiest way to approach this is to have the initial executors selected first, and that's just going to be one. You're just going to set a single one of those. And you'll see that I am pointing to agent. So agent is up here, and we're going to go into this in just a minute. I'm going to make this a little bit. And then we have successor agents, and this one is going to be a list. You will see that in this case, we have true. This just means it's always going to show, is what true means. But we have agent as a list. So this is where I can go through and select my agents. I am pulling from agent, which is right here. You'll see that I have fiduciary, co-fiduciary. We have two options in here. The one automation I'm going to show you today is using the acting. But certainly if you just wanted to do a true false that they're serving alone, then that's also an option. But the example I'm going to show is basically where they are acting, and this is a variable you will likely need to create and act independently or together or whatever the options are that you want to do. It's just this is where you'd put that language. Click save. Okay, so just to show you in practice, how does this look on the screen? I'm going to go into my estate plan. Under the will information, I've got my initial executor. So I'm just going to unselect that. So if as initial executors, if I only want to have one person be the initial executor, then I would just select from that list. So in this case, I do Jane. If I want a co-fiduciary, then I'm going to select Harry Smith and act together or act independently is kind of the option. So when it comes into the document, that's what's going to show up. Now, successor executor, certainly I wouldn't have Jane as a successor, and I'd actually want some more people here. Now you'll see that I have a drop-down list here. We've added automation here to add this person in here. You don't necessarily have to have it. But where that list comes from is pulling from the spouse and children and client. But let's just add another person here. So Mary Jones, and I'm not going to get into everything here, but you would want everything to be filled out. And if I go back under will, now I got Mary Jones as an option. So they can act however you want them to act, or I can uncheck it and bring it back in. That gives you an idea of how it's set up and how it's used when you're actually doing, actually filling it out. If I click complete, got my executor example, and it says I appoint Jane Smith and Harry Smith to act as executors if both my executors fail to qualify or cease. Then I appoint Jane Smith as my first executor. And you'll probably want to have more language in here, and I'll show you where that's going to go. You'll see I am missing a space there, so I'll show you how to fix that. Harry Smith as my second executor. And so now we'll dive into everything's set up. And so let's go into the document itself. This is what it looks like, and it does look a little bit complicated, just because there's a lot to automation. Like I said, when I started, this is one of the more complex parts of of most estate planning documents. So there is more fields that are going to be here. So what we're seeing here is just to kind of walk through this. So I appoint my initial executor, and we have client will, and you'll see this. So basically, client will, initial executors, and then fiduciary, and then I just double click on full name, and that's how that inserts. So then I say if client will, initial executors, co-fiduciary, full name, which basically is what this is saying is if anything is answered there, if it's not blank, then I'm going to put this additional language in. If something is, so if there's something there, then I'm going to put and client, co-fiduciary name to, and then this is where you see the acting as executor. Now, so this is part of if statement, and if as executor, so if it's just a single person, then I just want to say executor. But what if it's co, then I want to say executors. So again, I'm going to use an if statement. If co-fiduciary full name, then I'm going to put an S in there. So if I have both, it's going to put an S. So this section takes care of my initial executor. So, and then of naming them, now it's going to go if, and so I've got language here, both my executors, because I need information there to talk about if they're both of them or just a single. So if I say else my executor fails to qualify or cease to qualify for any reason, then I'll appoint. So now we get into a list. And this is where in our, just go back here. This is where I'm starting to enter my successor executors. My initial executors were here. This is a list because I can do multiple people and as many as I want. So now let's just go back. So what we need to do in this case is we need to create a list with all of the language that we want encapsulated in that list. So here I've got my will, successor executors. Since it is a list, once I'm within a list, I do not have to put client, successor executors in front of it. And when you insert from the word add in, it won't put that information in. So fiduciary full name, if co-fiduciary, same as up here, and co-fiduciary full name to acting, same as what we did up top, as my, Now this is something new here, because what I want to do is I want to know which number of person this is. So in this case, it's saying index, you'll see. And what I would do is my first, I'd probably really put successor, executor, and that will finish it. So, and then for the second executor, it will say as my second successor executor, or success, or with an S. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and it's just a matter of figuring out the different variations that you're going to have and encapsulating them all in the list. Now, I'm just, because I made a couple of changes here, I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And then I just need to look at my spacing. So just make sure that spacing looks good. And remember that I had a spacing issue before. Oh, right here, I've got the spacing. There's nothing after it. So we will put a space right there and press save. Now, just to get all the changes that I wanted to make, I'm just going to click review and update, click complete, and I'm going to click Executor Example. And I have first successor bolded, so that comes in. That's kind of the gist of it. So any questions on this? Certainly, if you have examples, submit them to support. We can, on this page, we certainly can add more examples of what different clients have had, so you can get to the point that you can copy and paste them. But with that, just submit your example, what you're looking for to support, and then we'll add those examples to this page so you can continue to see different variations on how to go through and do executors, trustees, guardians, and things. Thanks for watching.